Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. There is so much going on in the sports world, but first I'm your host Scott Alexander and I cannot wait for this show. It's going to be one of the more unique ones we do. You know, we always have Saints players, Pels players, LSU, etc., etc. We got different sports. I'll get to that in a second, but let's start with what's going on the landscape in New Orleans and in South Louisiana. And let's start with baseball because the 5 local teams went 14-1 this weekend. That's right. And it was some good competition. Let's start with the LSU Tigers. They had a 4-0 weekend. I mean, if you want to count the 14-1, make it 15-1 because they went to Houston and played 4 games. They started with Rice. They knocked them out. Rice is always a power. Then they beat Texas State. They also beat Louisiana, ULL, who's always going to the NCAA tournament. And, of course, the Texas Longhorns. That's always the big one this weekend when they do that Houston round robin. So they got by Texas. And how about this? Paul Skeens was the guy last year, first pick of the draft. This year, it's Luke Holman, the Alabama transfer. 3 starts. 0 runs. He has become the ace of this team in the early going. I know Thatcher Hurd. Some others are going to try to get that Friday spot later on, but right now it looks like Holman, and he is blowing up. Hey, speaking of the local teams, how about the Tulane Green Wave? They got swept last weekend, but they beat UNO on Tuesday in the Pelican Cup, and then they went on to sweep Yale this weekend, and that's a great sweep. Thank Jay Ullman needed that. They're now 7-4. And speaking of UNO, they had a sweep this weekend, as did Nichols. All 3 of those, including LSU, make it 4 swept. And then Southeastern. They beat the number 11 team in the country, East Carolina. And they also beat Cal State Fullerton. They did a round-robin thing. Their only loss was to Purdue. So no shame there. Great weekend for all the local baseball teams. Continue to get out and support them, whether it be in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Thibodaux, over there in Hammond. Get out there and support all your local teams. Moving forward, how about the NOLA Gold? That's right. I went to the game this weekend. They had their season opener. I say this often. There's only 3 professional teams here, and they're all major. The Saints and Pelicans we know, but this is Major League Rugby, not minor league. These guys are stars around the world, and they came back from a 6-0 deficit at halftime to win 18-6 with their 2 best players injured. Cam Dolan, who's going to be on this show today, 3-time World Cup player, and JP Duplessis from South Africa was not able to play, but they still got a victory. Get out and support them this weekend. They play Charlotte, a new team in the league, and that's going to be on Saturday at the Gold Mine on Airline. You remember when it was minor league baseball, Zephyr Stadium was the Shriner and Airline. Now it's the Gold Mine. And moving forward, how about the Pelicans? They had lost 2 in a row after the break, and then now they've won 2 in a row. They slammed the Pacers, a really good Pacer team. And Halliburton, one of the best players in the NBA, they held to 0 points thanks to Herb Jones doing some great defense, and he's been great offensively as well. Brandon Ingram has come into his stride. This team is rolling. And also, Trey Murphy came back and got 28, so congrats to them. They go on a 3-game road trip, but all very winnable games. They started Toronto tonight. And then you go into Philadelphia Friday and Atlanta on Sunday evening. So they're going to come back next week, and they could be on a 5-game win streak, but don't count the chickens before they hatch. How about LSU men's hoop? People were writing them off, but people didn't realize that gauntlet they went through. They played each of the top teams in the league, and they had lost a few in a row, but now they came back, and remember, we told you they beat Kentucky at buzzer beater. They also had that big win at number 11 South Carolina. Hey, they took it on the chin against Mississippi State, but they got 2 big wins last week, and then they have 2 games left. So they're 8-8 in conference after being 3-15 last year, and they have a good chance to go 10-8 because they wrap up the season this weekend against 0-16 Missouri in the conference. I don't know what's happened to the Missouri Tigers, but they haven't gotten a win all season in the SEC, and then they go this midweek game is going to be at Arkansas. Never easy, but the Razorbacks are 5-13. They've got a lot of turmoil going on in there. Hey, by the way, Jalen Cook, the former LSU player, the former Tulane player, and back at LSU, he's been basically sent on his way all 3 times, and he got suspended. We won't get into that. There's a lot of things going on with that guy. He's the leading scorer of the team, but since this winning streak started, 4 out of 5, it coincides when the moment he's been on the sideline. So sometimes it's addition by subtraction. So we're moving forward here. They got the tournaments. Obviously you got the SEC tournament. It's going to be in Nashville. We also have the AAC. That's the ACC, but we got the AAC, which is the American Athletic Conference tournament. And, of course, the Southland, and that's going to be in Lake Charles instead of Katy, Texas this year. And Lake Charles happens to be where former LSU coach Will Wade is, and he is tearing it up over there in the Southland for McNeese. So look forward to that. How about the LSU women's? They're on a big roll after losing those 2 games in a row. Kim Mulkey doesn't lose 2 games in a row very often, but she did to South Carolina, who's 65-1 over the last 2 years. South Carolina is a power, but LSU happened to win the title. But, you know, South Carolina lost to Iowa. That opened the door. And also the team they lost to Mississippi State. But since then, they're undefeated, and they're moving up. They were a 4 seed predicted about a week ago. Now they're predicted to be a 2 seed if things keep going on. So, you know, as long as they don't go in as a favorite, they still got a shot. But it's South Carolina to lose at this point. Caitlin Clark, how about what she did? She beat Pistol Pete's record. Everybody that knows me knows I'm a Pistol Pete fanatic, like any kid in the 70s was with the Jazz. I didn't see him at LSU. I was too young, but I didn't eat salt or red meat or get x-rays because Pistol didn't. I went to all of his camps. But his record, 3,667 points, has been broken on the women's side. Caitlin Clark is phenomenal. Phenomenal. One of the greatest women's players I've ever seen. One of the greatest players. Let's get the men and women out. This girl is phenomenal. Her range is everywhere. But let's put these records in perspective. One's going for the women's, one's the men's. Pete played 50 less games than Caitlin, averaged 44.2 points. Freshmen couldn't play back then. There's no shot clock, so teams are holding the ball for, 2 minutes at a time. So, pace. And also there's no three-point line. So they say if Pistol had the three-point line, he would have averaged 12 more points a game, which would have been 56. But the fact is, take nothing away from Caitlin Clark, because she's one of the most exciting players I've ever seen. I love watching this girl play basketball. So continue to support the women's as well. I think LSU and Iowa and, of course, South Carolina's run has helped the projection of people that are casual fans getting into the women's game, and that's good. Hey, how about the Loyola Wolfpack, man? This team, for the 3rd straight year, won their conference tournament in the men's side, and they did it this year as not the heavy favorite. Remember, they won the national title 2 years ago, and they were 40-1. This team was a 7th seed and had to beat the 1, 2, and 3 seeds to get this, so congrats to that team right there. And the women's as well, they won their tournament, and that's 3 out of 4 years for them. So good things are happening over there on St. Charles Avenue. Hey, how about the girls' high school? John Curtis girls, they won the state title. But here's the boys start up this weekend, and 6 local teams are going out to Lake Charles. You know what they call it, March Madness, because it's out there in the marsh. Obviously, Ponchatoula's got a big-time player that's going to Santa Clara. His brother played at LSU, Graves. But Newman, Randy Livingston, they are loaded. I mean, loaded. They have at least 4 or 5 college players on that team. Randy was one of the greatest high school players, not just in the state of Louisiana, in the country. One of only 5 in the history with LeBron and others like that. There were 2-time high school players of the year, but he's doing it as a coach as well. And Carver, Shaw, St. Martin's, and Crescent City are all going to be out there, so let's support them and hope they bring home some titles in here. How about Louisiana native Mondo Duplantis? His mom's from Sweden, dad from Lafayette. His brother, he's only the all-time hits leader at LSU in baseball. But Mondo has become not just a good pole vault, not just a great one. He's the greatest of all time. The greatest of all time. I didn't mince my words. Sergei Buka, sorry, he's gone. Mondo just won his 4th world title, and the guy's not even old enough to vote yet, or at least to drink. He can vote but not drink. But the fact is he's won his 4th title. He was in Glasgow, Scotland, and he is a heavy, heavy favorite to win in Paris for the Olympics. He has smashed all the records in pole vaulting. And the NFL Combine, that's right, the Saints, they pick at 14, but let's talk about what the local people did right here to improve their stock. Tulane's Michael Pratt, he got the best quarterback times in the 20-yard shuttle and the 3-cone drill, and his passing has been precise. And I'm hearing from all my former agent friends that when I was an agent, they love him, and he's going to easily be a 3rd rounder or even higher. Tulane wide receiver Jaquan Jackson helped him. His stock with a 4.42 in the 40, but the guy that's just off the charts, LSU wide receiver Brian Thomas, already going to be a top 15 pick. He might have put himself with Malik Neighbors as 2 LSU receivers in the top 10, because not only did he have 17 touchdown catches last year, not only is he 6'4", 205 pounds, prototype, this guy just ran a 4.34, the 3rd fastest of any position at the Combine. So his stock is probably going to go into the top 10 at the very least. And there's rumors now, I don't know, my agent friends out there also say Jaden Daniels might surpass Caleb Williams as the 1st overall pick. A long way to go before the draft, but that's very interesting to me, because I've done a bunch of USC games, and Caleb might not have upstairs what he's got. I think he's kind of like, not that he's not smart, but he's like not passionate about it, but this guy's got all the tools. To me, he's the best quarterback I've seen coming out of college in a long time. Congrats to Jaden moving up, though. Logan, our guy in the back, Sports A2F. He got 4 guys that are blowing up right there at the combine to keep an eye on for the Saints. Louisville running back Isaac Garendo. This guy wasn't even starting most of the season. He came on at the end of the year and was blowing up, getting 200-yard games in each of 5 of the last 6 games. Look out for him as a possible long-term replacement. I don't know, for Alvin Kamara. Who knows? Also, Texas wide receiver Xavier Worthy. I've done a bunch of Texas games with Brando and obviously Spencer Tillman for Fox. This guy takes the lid off. I mean, you saw him in the second half in the Sugar Bowl when they lost to Washington. He is great. So that's a guy that the Saints might be looking at possibly, maybe first or second round. Who knows? Washington tight end Devin Culp. We did a bunch of Huskies games as well. This guy is a big target, great hands. And also Toledo cornerback Quinyon Mitchell. We did an Ohio State-Toledo game the year before last, and he was easily the best Rocket on the field. This guy was a man among boys. So those are 4 more names to look at. And also, I have to tell you, I'm watching Scott Van Pelt last night. He had a great graphic. There's 9 winners of the PGA so far in 2024, right? 9 winners. And this is straight from him. I ripped this off. That's graphics Scott Van Pelt's. But if you put $1 on these are names that most of us had never heard of, except for maybe Hideki Matsuyama. But all the names, the least odds on this board is 45 to 1. And then the winners, you go from 350 to 1 to 200 to 1, 300 to 1, 125 to 1, 175 to 1, 150 to 1. If you put $1 and then rolled it over, you get this figure. And I'm not sure what this figure is. That's got 3, 6, 9, 12, 15 zeros plus 845 in front of that plus a 19 in front of that. That's probably a trillion times a trillion. That's a lot of money. And all you need is $1 to start and just roll it over. And that's what you would have. But the PGA has watered down a little bit, obviously, because of LIV. And the problem with LIV is we can't find it on TV. You got to go to the CW on different times. So we're not seeing the greatest golfers, but these guys are obviously going to be the stars of the future, hopefully. But we have a great show, a unique show. I told you about that. You know Dale Brown, the former LSU coach, legend, 25 years, left the SEC as the second leading most wins in SEC history. Now Billy Donovan's become second behind Adolph Rupp. But Dale Brown has had several books written around him. But this one, the latest, might be his best. And we have the author, Trent Angers, coming from Lafayette. Trent went to school with Pistol Pete at LSU, but he is also was nominated for the Nobel Prize Award for Literature for this book, not sports. And this is a book, we're going to get in a little bit of this too, about My Lai. That's where it was, My Lai. And this was from the Vietnam War. But we're going to talk about Dale Brown and the naming of the court and get into all that and all the controversy around it. Now that, they're trying to take that away and put another name. I can't wait for that. How about these 2 special athletes? Cam Dolan. You've seen him on this show before. The best American rugby player in the history of American rugby. He is a NOLA Gold player. He's a 3-time World Cup participant for the United States. And now he's an elder statesman. He's been with the Gold now for 6 years. Just a great, great person, great, great player. And he's going to be on the show. And I haven't had a swimmer on before, and I cannot wait. I have one right now. Victoria Raymond is blowing up. I got to tell Tulane, man, they have bring in some great athletes and people on this show, and I can't thank them enough. This might be one of the most decorated by the time she is done. She is the conference freshman of the year. She's smashing records left and right. 200-yard butterfly. I used to do the butterfly, but my time was like 3 times slower than hers. But the fact is she's going to be on the show, and I can't wait. All that next on Primetime Sports.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
I've been in the NBA 16 years, had a lot of coaches. Coach Brown was the only guy that stuck up for me.
I got to tell you, I was in law school when Shaq was playing at LSU, and he was a sight to see. But LSU had Pistol Pete. Bob Pettit was the greatest power forward in the NBA for 30 years until guys named Barkley and Malone and Duncan came around. And, of course, Chris Jackson, the most electric player I've ever seen in college. They've had a lot. But Shaq and a lot of those guys played for Dale Brown. Well, actually, Chris Jackson and Shaq played for Dale Brown. But 25 years, when he left the NCAA, He was the second most wins in SEC coaching history behind Adolph Rupp. We mentioned that in the open. But the guy I have today wrote a book recently that I love. And Dale Brown's had a few books written about it. But the court was recently named after Dale Brown, and deservedly so. It should have happened years and years ago, but it got done. And there's been some controversy since then. We're not going to get too into that part, but we want to get into it. But Trent Andrews, who was nominated for the Nobel Prize for Literature, that's the highest you can get when you write books. That's it. In simple language, that's it. But he is going to join the show. It's for another book that I mentioned in the open. But here he is right here. Trent, good to see you, man.
Well, thank you.
I don't have many authors on this show.
Well,
but since you're writing about one of my favorite coaches of all time, Dale Brown, we had an exception. So how you doing, bud?
Any better, I couldn't stand it.
There you go. Well, tell me this real quick. How did you get involved with this situation? Because you're the one that kind of spearheaded the whole thing with the court getting named after him. We all know we all wanted it, but nobody was taking charge and doing it. And tell us how that came about.
Well, I kept seeing the letters to the editor and the advocate advocating Dale Brown Court, but nothing was happening. Voices crying in the wilderness. There's all this logic as to why his name should be on the court. So I went to a member of the Board of Supervisors, LSU board, and I said, what about the Board of Supervisors approving this? He said, there should not be any problem whatsoever.
Right.
Well, when we brought it to the board, it was a rat's nest of flack.
They all want to bring it to the next person. They don't really want to do it because
right.
It's just too much.
So what we did on purpose, and this should be on the record, it was said that we bypassed inadvertently the Hall of Fame committee at LSU. We didn't do it inadvertently. We did it purposely. It went to the absolute highest authority at LSU to get the vote, and we got the vote 12-3.
And you got it done. I was at the game when he got, the court was named, but all the former players came. And, let's just talk about Dale and why you did it. What made you love Dale Brown so much to make you want to spearhead this effort?
Well, he's a role model of courage and integrity and honesty and a fierce tiger, okay? This generation and other generations could use role models like this. And so I thought that the name on the court and the book possibly, which was an afterthought,
yeah.
That would hold this name up to high visibility as a role model, and that people would emulate him, young people as well as older people.
Let me say this. The PMAC wasn't called the PMAC when I was at LSU. It was the Assembly Center, right? Mm-hmm. But there were no tickets for sale ever. It was packed, sold out. 1981, before I was there, that team had won 26 games in a row. They had gone to the Sweet 16 2 years before that, the Elite Eight the year before that, then they got to the Final Four. They were #1 for a good part of that season before falling in the Final Four to eventual national champion Indiana, Isaiah Thomas. But Dale Brown has become a pioneer in so many ways. And I'm going to say this, there's no NIL without what Dale Brown started. These guys wouldn't be getting paid because he saw the NCAA for really what it was early on. He kept calling it, and he was considered a kook for saying it, but he said they were a fraud. And why do they have all this power? And they can just, met out punishment and judgment at their whim. Mm-hmm. So that's the part I think needs explaining on why Dale Brown should be remembered more than anything else. Okay.
Well, Dale Brown's mantra in the entire 35 years that he was fighting with the NCAA to change their rule book, his mantra was that the NCAA legislates against human dignity and practices monumental hypocrisy. Well, you can imagine he didn't make any friends at the NCAA saying that. But there were 43 rules that he identified, and in the course of this 35-year period, about 30 of them or more were changed. There were rules that were petty, demeaning, and insulting.
Yeah, let me say one, for instance. Yeah. A player of his mom needed surgery. What father figure, and that's what coaches are, besides coaching on the field, you're a father or mother figure, whatever sport you're in, would not help that person get to go see the mother or a funeral.
Thank you.
And he was doing those things when we were like, and he was getting penalized for it and sanctioned and put on probation for just things that any person should do.
Right.
And so now these petty rules you speak of, that's one. But I remember just being as an agent, I can tell you one thing, we couldn't even give a ride to a player to dinner because, right. I mean, I'm talking about players that I've known for years just doing TV. And the guy's like, hey, pick me up at a certain time. I know his parents. And he's like, man, You know, but he asked me to pick them up. I said I can't because the NCAA has the rule where we can't give anything of value, and a ride would be something of value. These are petty, and you know, now we've gone way past the landscape, and you know, it's getting a little bit out of hand at times. But now they're paying the players, which players should be compensated. They're working. I mean, listen, tennis players get it, golfers get it when they're young, and why not NCAA athletes? So, without his beginning to build the groundwork on this, none of this is happening.
Yeah, and let me say, too, I credit Dale Brown with the changing of these rules. He wasn't the only one pushing, and this wasn't done solely because of his influence. But he was clearly, absolutely, the nation's leading advocate of NCAA rulebook reform. I got this information in part from a former head of enforcement of the NCAA, and also one person who vouches for it, who wrote the foreword to my book, is Bob Costas.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And so Costas vouches that Dale, most of what he pushed for has come to pass. And that makes him a national hero. I mean, there are today literally, honestly, 500,000 student athletes in every NCAA college and university in America who are benefiting from what Dale Brown did. Dale didn't know the impact of his work. LSU athletic department didn't know the impact. The administration had no clue of the impact of Dale, so anyone who helps in a material way 500,000 of his fellow human beings, to me, is a national hero.
And only the people in the end know it. I've talked to other college coaches, some retired now, that were around when he was there, and Bill Self being one of them, Kansas coach, and he said, yeah, we all agreed with what Dale was saying, but nobody wanted to, put themselves out there like Dale. Dale was on an island, and he didn't care what anybody thought of him, and that's what I love. But they thought he was a kook because he went to find Bigfoot, right? He's done some things that we find endearing, but people on the outside are like, this guy's just crazy. But he's crazy like a fox. That's what he's crazy like, and he's one of the most kind, dear-hearted human beings I've ever met, and he's been a father figure to me literally for 40 years, and I couldn't speak high enough of him.
What makes him crazy, and he's not crazy, but his wife has a famous quote that says, when Dale sees an injustice, he just goes berserk.
He does.
And he does. And he still does. And he's 88 years old today.
And he could still probably run at the 10K. I mean, the guy's in great shape.
The fire is in the belly still with Dale Brown.
The other thing is civil rights. And people don't understand this, but LSU had 6 black players when he came in 1972. And six black students. 0 black players. 0. And he got the first one with Collis Temple Jr., right? The second.
Well, Collis came 1 year before him. 1 year
before, but he was the first one. They became lifelong friends. That's what it was.
Collis is like one of Dale's sons. Collis, Temple, and Shaquille O'Neal are like 2 of Dale's sons. And by the way, 160 players over the 25 years, and he stays in touch with literally every one of these people who's still alive today.
Well, that's what I tell people that don't know much about Dale. I know all the coaches want to see their players do well, and they try to stay in touch, but he knows, obviously everybody knows what Shaq's doing, but the last guy on the bench, the last walk-on from, let's just say 1979 or 1986 or 1997, he knows what all of them are doing. He cares as much or more than any other coach I've ever seen in my life.
Yes, that's 100% true.
But the civil rights thing, you said something to me when I talked to you on the phone last night that kind of struck me, because people don't realize this. It wasn't that long ago you didn't see any African Americans playing in the landscape, particularly in the South, in the SEC. That didn't really get started until the late 60s at best, but at many places the 70s.
Yep. Well, Dale Brown is a true civil rights leader. He worked with the NAACP of Baton Rouge, a fellow named George Eames, who was a big sports fan, who was in a wheelchair, long story. But he worked with George Eames. He said, look, we want to build LSU into a national power. We want to attract more black athletes. Why can't we get more at LSU? Well, LSU's reputation, which is mind-boggling, even in the early mid-70s, was that they were not friendly toward black athletes. I'm thinking, well, if you want to win certain games, you want to get the best athletes regardless of where they are. And Dale went out of his way to do it, and Dale got death threats because of that.
So this book Which, by the way, I have at least 4 or 5 Dale books. This one to me is the most readable, and that's not because you're just sitting here. This one is something that if you've been around LSU sports as long as I have, or even if you're more recent, this is what you want to see. And I'm being honest with you, it's called Dale Brown Court, but I want to know the genesis and what you had to do to get this done. Because I don't know how well you knew Dale before. You went to college with Pistol Pete. I said that in the open. So that's right before Dale got there. But what made you want to do this, and how much time did you spend getting it done?
Funny you should ask. I spent 2,000 hours over 2 years on this project, and I was attending Board of Supervisors meetings where this was trying to come up, and I could see the flack and the pushback against Dale Brown. And I'm thinking, this is not just. For one of which was they said he never won a national championship. Well, almost no coaches, a small fraction of 1% win national championships. So that was an arbitrary pushback.
Some haven't even been in the Final Four, and he went to 2 in 5 years and was a whisker, a last-second shot of going to 3 in 6 years.
Yeah. The other thing was that his name wasn't on the court, they said, because he got LSU put on probation. That was also a lie. The Lester Earl case where Lester Earl lied to say that Dale
and he recanted and said he lied. Right.
Right. We have the video of Lester Earl recant. So this was bogged down in the Hall of Fame committee, and I'm looking at this big institution and all these smoke and mirror, the committees and the subcommittees and the people you got to talk to get something done. And I'm thinking, the heck with this. Let's just take it straight to the top, straight to the Board of Supervisors, straight to the ultimate authority. But as I saw all of this, I'm thinking, this is intriguing. This is like there's a mystery here. Why isn't Dale Brown's name on the court? It's because, and I haven't said this publicly before, it's because Dale Brown was being blackballed in the Hall of Fame committee. They will never, ever say that that's the way that system runs. But when you have a system of, say, 10 or 15 people voting, and it only takes one in a private vote to not vote, then if one person... It takes
one private vote to blackball?
To deny the honor.
That's crazy.
Where I'm from, we call this, by definition, blackballing. And this is why Dale was being... So I said, I'm going to write a book about this. I'm going to tell the truth with this thing. Dale is a stickler for the truth. And so this book, Dale Brown Court and the Battle for Human Dignity, tells the truth, all the behind-the-scenes things, the politics. It tells Governor John Bell Edwards' role in this for also forcing the woman's name onto the court. He thought it was, anyway, that's another can of worms.
Well, I mean, let's just go ahead and say this. Besides all this great stuff, he was a great coach, too. Like, literally one of the best. LSU, yeah. Even Pistol Pete, as great as he was, he did take LSU from 3-13 in conference to, they had one win he got there, and they were good, but not great. Mm-hmm. He took this team in like 7 years to be one of the best in the country for about a 10-year run there, at least. And then that's even before Shaq and Chris Jackson got there, and they got back in national prominence again. So, hey, all the kudos to him. I'm glad you're recognizing him with this book and all the work you've done to get the court named after him. We all know the controversy with the women's coach. Not necessarily need to get into that, but let's see. Celebrate the greats that have come before us, and Dale Brown's certainly one of them.
Yep.
So I want to give you gifts, and you came all the way from Lake Lafayette, and we had some storms the last 2 days, so I want to thank you very much. But feel this shirt real quick. You've probably never felt one. That's Task Performance. That is we've been giving these shirts. It's the first white one I've ever given out, by the way. But I'm telling you, when I saw Drew Brees and Sean Payton and all them wearing it at a press conference, I put one on 12 years ago, and I've never taken them off. I love them. That's why they represent our show, and I love them as a sponsor. Mr. John's Steakhouse, you asked for Desi Vega. He's the owner.
Okay.
And Archie Rodenkirk will take care of you there with Trent. If you have time to stay there, I'll even go with you tonight.
Okay.
But thanks, man. Appreciate you coming all the way.
Okay, my pleasure.
Take care. Hey, by the way, this is a unique show, like I said in the open. One of the best swimmers that's ever been in the South here at Tulane. She's from Canada. She's coming up. And one of my favorite guys on the planet. That's right. I met Cam Dolan 6 years ago. Has it been that long? And I've watched him just progress and progress. And he was already a superstar on the national level. But they're coming up next on Primetime Sports. Thanks.
You've heard about rugby, the hard hits, the whole no pads thing, but rugby is more than that. It's this, a whole day, a whole culture.
Well, the fans bring the energy, so we better bring it too.
Set! Every play, every match for the city we call home.
This is rugby, and we are Nola Gold.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. I want to thank Dale Brown, author Trent Angers, and we've got Cam Dolan coming up with the Nola Gold, but right now we're going to swimming. That's right, getting in the pool, because things like this haven't been happening at Tulane ever. That's right, freshman Victoria Raymond. She comes from Toronto, all the way down to Tulane, and she is smashing records. She's got 11 records already at Tulane. She is the freshman of the year in the American Athletic Conference. She's got the 200 butterfly. She was #1 in the conference, and she ranks in the country as well. But she's here to join us, and I got to give a shout out to the MVP right now. That's Jason Corrier, because he's been bringing somebody nearly every week, and they're all interesting and fun to talk to. And here, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I have a feeling with what you've done as a freshman that this won't be your last time.
Oh, no, definitely not.
If you stay at Tulane, you're staying.
Yes, 100%.
But the first obvious question, Victoria, you come from Canada. Tulane didn't have much of a reputation. They just got a locker room finally, and it's beautiful, about a month ago. The pool has been in process of being done, and it's beautiful too, but that's finally here. What made you come to Tulane?
Oh, it was a long journey, my recruiting process, but eventually I took a trip down to Tulane, and I loved the campus, loved the city. Everything about it was just so new to me, and everything clicked. I loved the coaches, everything. It was such a good visit, and I had to commit.
Well, yeah, listen, I love what you just said, because you love the city, and New Orleanians love you to love us, and we love you back in droves. But what was your impression when you heard New Orleans, being from Toronto? And Toronto's a beautiful city. I've been several times with the NBA. But before you got here, what was your impression of just hearing the word New Orleans?
Yeah, when I took my official visit in last fall, I literally had never even stepped foot in the state of Louisiana.
Why would you have? I mean, honestly,
exactly.
It's a long way away, and you're in high school. Right?
Yeah, and I'm like, my parents were like, oh, New Orleans, that's a pretty fun city. Like,
and they've never been either?
No, they haven't been either. The first time they came was when they moved me in.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
All right.
But I didn't really know much. My parents were just like, it's a very unique city, there's a lot of stuff going on always, but.
What's stuff mean?
Just
partying. Let's be honest.
Partying,
That's what it's about, right? Right.
Yeah.
So wait. So you took this official visit like when you were in high school, right? And you flew down by yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a little bit daunting. But when you got here, what did they show you? I'm just curious, when a recruiting trip, if they show you sites or they just keep it on campus, what do they show you?
We kept it mainly on campus. But, oh God, I just fell in love with the campus. And we went to a few places around, just on like Ferret and stuff.
Right.
It was a really nice campus for my preference, because I come from a city, and a lot of big colleges will be college towns.
Right.
Not a lot around them.
Right,
But
exactly.
with Tulane, it was just, it's in the middle of everything. I can go to like downtown if I wanted to. I can just stay uptown, go get something to eat. There's so much to do in this city, and it worked out so
And
well.
everything's a hop, skip, and a jump away. I mean,
Exactly.
like I was in Atlanta for a long time, and I grew up like, oh my God, you just going out the door, you have 20 minutes. Well, the furthest place you go here is 20 minutes. I mean,
Yeah.
everything's sort of close,
Yeah.
and you don't realize that if you're from here until you move away. But what is the thing that sticks out to you about the food here? Now, do you like it? Because it takes a lot to get used to, especially if you've been eating food that's not seasoned very much. And I imagine in Canada they might not. I'm just speculating. So what's your first thought about the food?
See, the thing is, I am not a crazy seafood fan.
Okay, then you might as well go back home. No.
I might as well.
We have steaks here too.
Yeah, you guys have still a wide variety of like food and like different types of like cuisines, which is very similar to Toronto, because we have a very
international city. Yeah, right.
a very multicultural population. So it was just like, as much as I don't like seafood, there's still so many different options, so many really good restaurants. So I love it.
What did you consider before? Like, I don't know the swimming powers. I know Florida used to be great.
Oh.
But what schools did you consider before choosing Tulane? And you mentioned coming here because you liked a lot of things, but there wasn't a lot to like about, because like I said, the pool wasn't done, and it's gorgeous. We have pictures of that. the locker room was non-existent.
Yeah.
What made you come to this program, and what other schools were you recruited by?
I was looking at places like Rice University, very
Right.
similar to Tulane.
Very similar.
Miami. I actually took a trip to LSU.
Hey, I love LSU and Tulane, so she's like, I actually took a trip to LSU. Like, I can't believe I did it, but okay. No. So you went to LSU, Miami, Rice, all great places.
Yeah, just I wanted to go somewhere a little bit down south.
I could see. These are all way down south. We're not talking Virginia.
Yeah, I just wanted to go to places with a warmer climate. I'm from Toronto, really cold there, so you know, I just really like the weather here, the people, everything's great. And about why I chose Tulane, because there was no pool and no locker room, you know, I just took a chance. The fact that like it's a great academic school, really great campus, and the pool was already being constructed and like built while I was getting recruited, so they had like projected timelines, and it was gonna line up for when I was coming.
When you were coming, right?
So I trusted it, and it worked out for the best.
So Amanda Caldwell, is that your coach?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you get to campus, I'm curious about this, and I know kind of how basketball works. I've been around that, but when a swimmer gets to campus as a potential, you know, future athlete, does the swimming coach pick her up? Who picks you up? Who brings you around? They have other swimmers, and what was your relationship with Amanda Caldwell before you met her?
She was just like, she was freshly hired when I was getting recruited.
Okay.
So I was actually in communications with the assistant coach, Grayson Heckman.
Okay.
And so he picked me up from the airport. I met her on my official visit,
right,
which was really nice. She was like literally her first week in New Orleans. She came down, said hi to the team, said hi to me.
That's
was
pretty
really,
cool,
yeah,
actually.
that was
Y'all
really
both
special
came
to me.
So where is she from? I'm curious.
She was originally, she's from way up north, I think, somewhere in Ohio.
I was about to say, you're way up north. I mean, you're way up north. Yeah,
Yeah.
She's halfway up there.
She's from somewhere in Ohio, I believe, but before her head coaching position at Tulane, she was at Georgia Southern.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I know Georgia Southern well. In fact, Tulane's football coach came from there, the former one, Willie Fritz. I've got to ask you about the accolades you've won, because it didn't take long for me just to start Googling you up, going through Tulane's, you know, Twitter and Instagram stuff. You're killing it. I mean, you're killing your team. And I just see you've already broken about 11 Tulane records, I believe, in different contests. 200 butterfly is what you #1 in the conference. That's a grueling race, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I swam until 10th grade fairly competitively, but I just know that it's not like a 50 or 100. I mean, you got to have it in you. And so there's the, you know, you do the 100 fly, you got the, you know, the 100 butterfly. You're right there near the top. If you're not right there, you see your #1, your event champion, and that these are all different, obviously, you know, events. Yeah. My point is this, but you're good in a bunch of them. You could do the medley by yourself.
Yeah. It's been really, like, I've been working with Amanda just on a bunch of my different events. At the start of the year, I worked on just seeing what I wanted my conference event list to be. I had a bunch of contending events, like I was gonna swim the 200-yard freestyle, but I eventually chose the 200 backstroke over that.
Right.
But
Why?
The schedule honestly worked better because the 100-yard butterfly and the 200-yard free were on the same day.
I get it. Okay.
And it was really close. Like, I think I would have like 10 minutes in between the races, and that would be horrible.
Well, that's a smart strategic decision, right?
And I mean, it worked out for the best. The 200 backstroke went really well for me. So.
Well, how many? Okay, share for us that don't really know how college swimming works. So, how many events can you swim physically, like in a meet?
So at conference championships, you're allowed 3 individuals.
Okay.
So I chose my 3 as 100 fly, 200 fly, and 200 backstroke. At other meets, like we have, besides our championship meet, which is conference, there's dual meets all throughout the season.
Right.
That's usually how.
So when did the butterfly thing come about in Dallas? That's where the American Athletic Conference Championships were last month, right? So you just mentioned the 100 and 200 fly and the backstroke. So when did the butterfly come in?
Oh,
I'm confused now.
I've been a specialist in butterfly for my whole like.
So in the conference tournament, were you able to swim all those? I mean.
Yeah, all 3.
Okay, the 100, 200 flies. That's 2, right?
Yeah, 2, and then 200 back.
That's what. But okay, where's the butterfly in there?
Butterflies fly.
Oh, the fly. I'm
Yeah,
thinking,
sorry, I've been speaking in like swimming terminology.
No, I'm thinking freestyle. Okay. That's fly. Thank you.
Butterfly.
That's why he's the
fly.
MVP right
I'll teach you some swimming
Well, we
terminology
call the
too.
fly at LSU, I mean, by the river, just the butterfly. There used to be a structure. I don't know if you heard it yet.
Yep.
It's called the fly.
Yeah.
And it looked like a butterfly in the day. The structure's gone, but it's still called the fly. I should have picked that up. I was just thinking free. All right, so you call that free. There you go. No confusion. So how many like relays can you do also in a particular meet if you're doing 3 individuals?
I'm not sure how many. I was in like every single relay at conference. So.
Oh, so you can do as many.
Yeah, it's really up to the coach. I think we're allowed to be entered in every single relay.
So when Michael Phelps won 8 gold medals in 2008, you would have been like 3, 4, 5? That seems like yesterday to me. I watched that in Bon Air, and then I realized that this great college swimmer. How old would you have been? Like 2, 3, 4?
I'm 2005, so I would have been around 4.
3
or 3.
3
or 4, yeah.
Tulane math. There we go. All right. Hey, this has been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I can't wait to see what the future holds for you. And seriously, now that I'm loving getting all the other events, and y'all are right around the corner, I can't wait to have you back next year. And we're going to give you, because LSU did not let you in, I understand it's not everybody can get in LSU. We're going to give you the colors of LSU. That's
Thank
task
you.
performance. That's a long sleeve.
Oh, long sleeve.
That's the first long sleeve I've given out on this show, by the way. And you get it. And I've been giving those away for 8 years. And this is a restaurant called Chez de la Chez, which is literally about 3 blocks from campus.
Oh, perfect.
By the Starbucks on Maple
Thank you
Street
so
between
much.
Carrollton and Broadway. Hey, Google this girl up. I was going to say woman, but yet you're still like a girl. So Victoria Raymond, and she is going to be a future superstar in this business. Hey, any aspirations for Olympics? Is that what every swimmer wants to do?
It's a work in progress. It could happen. I'm going to Olympic trials in May.
That's what I'm saying. Why can't it happen? You're smashing records at Tulane. You're already the number 1 in the conference in 200 butterfly. Hey, we're going to see her in the Olympics. Would that be Paris, or are you going to wait for the next one?
I mean,
hey,
you
let's
never
go
know.
Paris and the next one. Let's go Phelps and get like 30 gold medals. Victoria Raymond, remember that name and Google it up. Hey, coming up next, the greatest rugby player in the history of the United States. Now, rugby's played around the world, so there are definitely greater players from around the world. But in this country, his name is Cam Dolan, and he's a member of the NOLA Gold Major League Rugby team, and I can't wait to have him back. This is probably his 1, 2, 3, at least 3rd appearance, maybe 4th. He's coming next, right here on Primetime Sports.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll. At the mid-city lanes, the home of rock and roll.
This is New Orleans. You've been to games. You've seen the hard hits, felt the ground shake. You've heard the fans erupt, and you've watched the team answer. You've seen sports in the city, but until you see NOLA Gold, you ain't seen a thing.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. And this whole show, I've been leading up to this because I've known this guy for 6 years. His name is Cam Dolan, and I've already given you an introduction leading in the previous segment, so I'm just going to say, hi, Cam.
How you doing? It's great to see you.
Man,
I've been great. You know?
This guy was the best field hockey player in the history of Florida, and he's 6'6", is it? 6'5", 6'6". And he's become one of the best rugby players in the United States, right? Yeah. But you came to New Orleans from San Diego. You played there that first year when the league started. I came the next year, and you were there. I'm gonna say this: I didn't know how long you'd be in New Orleans, or if you'd even, But it looks like you're gonna stay for a while.
Yeah, I've kind of planted some roots here. I had, kind of learned the city, enjoyed it, lived uptown, lived West Bank. and I just try to figure out what worked best for me.
You worked in Harahan for 2 different places.
Worked in Elmwood a bit, and doing some commercial real estate.
And also the team plays in Metairie at the Shrine on Airline.
A couple minutes up the road on Clearview right there, and right off Airline. So. And I finally planted roots, and I think I'm here to stay for a little while at least.
Well, you're engaged to a local girl. Let's give a shout out.
Yeah.
There she is, Ellen. November 1st is the wedding. And I saw you at a Saints game earlier in the season sitting with Robert Israel, one of the minority owners of the team, along with Tim Falcon, the main owner. And you're like, hey, bro, I'm getting married. And I was like, oh, my gosh, that was big news, Cam.
Yeah, I had lived kind of all over the world, before moving here. I had, college in Atlanta, 2 years in England, 2 years in Wales, 6-month stint in New York City, 9 months in San Diego.
That was a good 6 months, I bet.
I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. Did a little bartending on the side down in Times Square in the off season.
Better than that. But you came to New Orleans, and this is 6 years, man.
Yeah, came to New Orleans. Finally,
Gold.
Decided I wanted to stay here, and found a good woman to hopefully spend the rest of my life with.
That's so phenomenal. I'm so happy for you. But let's talk about rugby. I know you're hurting right now. Your 6th year. When you got here, the Gold, man, they were on fire. Electric offense. Scoring tons of points. They always had to play the second half of the season on the road, which doesn't help because it gets so hot here. But talk about the progression you've seen literally from 2018 in the 19 season, but you probably got here late 18, and now it's early 24, that you've seen not only in the goal, but the league itself.
Yeah, so when it first started off, I think most of the teams were just trying to still figure it out.
Sure.
With their training facilities, the coaching staff, things like that. Obviously, you're only allowed so many foreigners on your team, so your domestic guys, most of which have never played professional rugby before, is all semi-pro for them, or they were straight out of college. So,
right.
When you get into your 5th, 6th, 7th year of that game fitness, the speed of the game is always going to increase. The coaching is going to increase. Everyone's got to take those steps up. So, the level of what we're playing at now is so far beyond 2018. You take the champions for 2018, Seattle Seawolves, you take that exact team and you put it up against any team in the league last year, and they lose by 30 points. So I don't think it's even close.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to hear, because I went to the game on Saturday, and it was fun. It was 6-0. You were hurt. JP Duplessis, who's another guy that's got some skins on the wall, right? He didn't play. He had a little hamstring issue. But I'm going to say this. I'll look down on the field, and I haven't been involved in like 3 years, and the size and athleticism of some of these guys, it has even taken, because we had some really good players back in 21, 20, 19, all that. And I'm like, whoa, this is a whole nother level. So not only has the skill level, but are you getting more foreigners curious about coming over here, guys that are established in other countries that just want to see what this is about?
Yeah, definitely. Each year you get bigger names coming in. A lot of guys with those bigger names is kind of they're towards the end of their career.
Right, the twilight.
But then you also have had guys come in who, were kind of young in their career, foreigners who have come over here, had breakout seasons, and now have been, called back to the biggest teams in their countries. For instance, Tom Florence last year was, probably our best player.
Yeah.
And, after last season's, accolades, I guess you could say, he's been called into the Chiefs, which is one of the best teams in the world.
Absolutely.
In New Zealand, they play Super Rugby.
Right.
Is their professional league there. He's been called into the Chiefs squad. So
that's amazing.
That's awesome for him.
And now, we're becoming a little bit of a farm for younger guys to go. No, I'm going to say this about rugby because it gets in your blood. Like, I've obviously never played. That would have been something I would love. I love tackle football, no pad. But the fact is that it takes a minute for people that don't understand the sport. I sat in the stands for the first half with friends of mine that know the new CEO, Van Gallinghouse, and they were trying to get me to explain. And it reminded me of 5-6 years ago, I had no idea. And I'm up in the booth calling the game. But the fact is it gets in your blood. This camaraderie among players, during the game, they want to beat the hell out of each other, right? And they want to win. They're very competitive. After the game, they're hanging out, having beers. And this isn't just club rugby guys. These are some Olympians. These are world-class guys. I say this often. You're not going to get Russell Westbrook in the NBA hanging out with a fan after the game. It just doesn't happen. It's special. This sport's special. It's the second largest in the world. Some might want to say cricket might be in there, but we don't play that sport here. So it's soccer and rugby. I think that surprises people that don't know much about the sport. Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you take the big five here, you know, you've got football, basketball, baseball, hockey, and soccer, your big five. So, you know, to add another sport into that is always going to be tough. So we got tennis and golf, individual sports that are well watched, right? I agree with that, but just from the big five team sports. So to add another team sport in there, you know, it's going to be tough. But I think, you know, what our marketing department and you know, what all our staff have done in the city. I think they're doing a phenomenal job. I think we had 3,500 people at the game this weekend. I'm telling you, I'm watching what y'all are doing from the outside, and I'm really, really blown away because your commercials are really good, and they're getting on. You know, by the way, we made one with you and Cam Jordan. I played when Ryan was on, and that was just from scratch. We just did that in like a day. You know, but my point is, you're getting them on primetime times. Yes. And I know that's an effort. I know we would try to get one in during a Sugar Bowl when I was doing it, but that's hard because it's expensive, right? Expensive, yeah. But your marketing group has made an effort to get it out. And I'm just watching as a fan now, hoping the sport grows, and I know it will. I really do. I think the COVID is one thing that knocked us back. I mean, the momentum was rolling at that point. We were having a great season, first 5 games. We had a fantastic squad at the time, and then COVID hit, and then all of a sudden we didn't have a game for over 12 months. So it's like, you know, people kind of forget. They forget. And they got a lot of things to do here. It comes in festival time. But I'm here to tell y'all, that's one of the spots. This is Harley, right? And there you are. There's Cam. But no, but the thing is like, get out there, New Orleans. I'm telling you, I went as a fan for the first time as opposed to being part of it. And I just enjoyed the heck out of it. I mean, I really did. It was so much fun. It's awesome. From where we came in 2018, 2019, being at Shaw High School in the West Bank, to now being at the Shrine on Airline. You know, the stadium puts on a great production and everything as well. It's awesome for families. The kids absolutely love it. Yeah, they do. They really do. It's really exciting to watch them too. And you know, after the game, shaking hands with the fans along the you know, sideline after the game is awesome. You know, the music's good, the food's good. You know, it's a good experience for the parents. The beers aren't that expensive. No, the games aren't even that expensive to go to either. So they're not. You know, on a Saturday afternoon for 2 hours is it was perfect. It's a spectacle, really. Let me tell you this. I was there last week. 3 over at 5. Hung out, chatted with some folks for a minute. I was home by 5:45. Yeah. And I had the night to do whatever I wanted. For me, it was just watch a movie and fall asleep. And if you really want to make a day of it, there's hundreds of people tailgating starting at noon, you know, and they're out there. People are bringing campers now. It's awesome. Well, it's 3 o'clock. Okay, so this week you got a home, and you won't have one. I had a schedule with me. But it's over there, I can't read. But I had a schedule. You're going to be going to road games and you have a bye. Yeah, there you go. That's the home schedule. You see the one on the 9th? They're not going to have another one. Go back to the home schedule real quick if you don't mind. They're not going to have another one for almost a month because they have 2 road games and then a bye. So you got this weekend, Saturday at 3 against San Diego, your original team the first year. And they don't play. This is an old schedule. I apologize. We're playing Charlotte. Charlotte. That's right. We are playing Charlotte. That's an old schedule. But the fact is, I think April 6th is still the next time you're home because you have 2 weeks on the road and then you have a bye. Yeah. So my point is if you got, I'm not going to say if you have nothing to do. If you have something to do, you should cancel it and go to this. I agree 100%. Especially, I don't know what the weather's going to be like this weekend, but regardless, you know, rain or shine, we play. Lightning, we obviously have to delay it a bit, but rain or shine, we play. And honestly, some of those rain games are even more enjoyable to watch. And the snow game we had in Utah that year, 19. It might not have been as fun to play in as it was to watch, but that was a blast too. Miserable. Let's talk about you and the team right now because you have a neck injury. So what's your prognosis, and when do you think you're going to be back on the pitch? I'll find out today at about 5:30 p.m. Well, which is an hour and a half ago. We do tape this in the daytime, but it is the same day. Fair. But no, we'll know about that time whether you're going to be healthy. When do you think you know your own body? When are you thinking? Approximately.
Well, I don't know. It's a nerve issue, so you never really know. I'd love to be back in the next. I'd love to be back in the next few weeks, but
you need your nerve. I mean, come on, this is rugby. I thought y'all were men. Let's get out there and play.
Nerves in the neck are a little. Yeah. I would like to think they're kind of important.
So you want to continue to walk for the rest of your life?
That'd be really nice. I'd like to have kids one day, maybe be able to play some sports with them. So.
Good move. Be careful. Hey, by the way, Tim Falcon, the owner, and Ryan. Fitzgerald, Fitzy, they've been there from the beginning.
Yeah.
And talk about their leadership and what they mean for the city and of course, the No Look Gold.
Well, Tim Falcon's a visionary. He had this vision. Man loves rugby, I think, more than anyone I've ever met.
He loves it.
And he had this vision that he wanted to start a professional rugby team. They were bringing a league to America. They were starting a league, and he said, you know what, we're bringing one to New Orleans. We're going to figure out what happens. Shaw High School didn't even have a stadium at the time. He got together with some investors. They built a stadium for Shaw High School, and I'm
going to tell you one more thing.
They played their games there.
You might not even know this. When I took over, we had a meeting with Doug Thornton in January of 19, and we had Kyle France, who ran the Louisiana Sports Expedition. He was the chairman at the time, and also the #2 guy in all of rugby from Argentina was in. And we had a meeting, and Tim Falcon is really the guy that spearheaded, one of the guys for sure, about getting the World Cup here. And that's what, 5 years ago, and it's coming in 2031. The World Cup in America is a huge thing, and New Orleans is going to be a part of that.
I agree 100%. It comes in, I think, 2031. We're hosting the
women come the year after,
men's World Cup, and the women are 2032. And I know New Orleans is one of the finalists for bid. I think they want to try to hold the final here.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Which, if you think about it from kind of their perspective, the World Cup. They want to play in the Superdome.
Right, and I think they will.
The Superdome is one of the only stadiums in the entire country that sits in the heart of downtown.
It's perfect.
Where you have that many hotel rooms, that close. I think it'd be awesome.
I could go all day, but I got to give you your gifts because
perfect. Because
you waited and you were patient. I'm giving you both restaurants. Mr. John's Steakhouse on St. Charles Avenue.
Perfect.
And you love Chez Delachaux.
Love Chez Delachaux. Appetizers are
phenomenal, and the best wine list there is. I mean, that's a fact. And then,
thank you so much.
I think these task shirts have gotten even softer.
They do something with the bamboo?
This is crazy. What are they doing? They got finer bamboo, I guess.
You think I could put it on my pillow? Make it a pillowcase?
It's a pillowcase. Hey, I would take all day. Get out there and support your NOLA Gold. If I didn't have to go in 5 seconds, I'd stay for another 20 minutes and talk to him. But I got to go. See you next week on Primetime Sports.
We are one community
with one mission
and one heartbeat. We are resilient,
fearless,
joyful,
and visionary.
We support one another through challenges,
push each other towards excellence,
and are always filled with Christ's love.
We take pride in our traditions
and stay true to our roots. We are committed to caring for every aspect of our community.
We are competitive, yet humble, and give all of our success to the glory of God.
We are invested in one another and view each other through the eyes of Christ.
We leave PJP transformed,
proud,
and capable of doing anything that we put our minds to.
We are loyal and true to the red, gold, and blue.
We are John Paul Jaguars.
Hi, I'm Eric Asher, host of Inside New Orleans Sports. Join me every Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m. for a live broadcast of Inside New Orleans Sports, featuring a reporters roundtable with local media members that cover the Saints, Pelicans, LSU, Tulane, and prep sports. Don't forget your calls are always welcome. That's Inside New Orleans Sports, Thursdays 6 to 7 p.m. with a rebroadcast on Fridays 10 to 11 p.m. on WLAE-TV.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.
Hello, I'm Lisa Flood.
And I'm Jason Angelette, and welcome to Faith and Marriage Today.
We are excited that we are still on location at Christ the King at LSU. And we are joined today by Scott Johnson and Kelly Hartman. Welcome to Faith and Marriage Today.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much. Let's begin with a little bit of finding out what each of you are doing here. Scott, how did you find yourself at Christ the King at LSU?
Yeah, it's
good question.
That's a great question. Yeah, I actually didn't know about LSU or CTK. A friend of mine reached out to me who used to work here, and they were looking for a replacement for campus ministry, but also for a new Catholic fraternity that they were starting here at CTK called the John Paul II House. And I had previously been working for Franciscan University of Steubenville in their Austria program. And a lot of the experiences that I had dovetailed perfectly with what the role was here. So he reached out to me, asked me about it. I came to visit, and then I made the decision to, come down to LSU. So,
praise God.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
We're so glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
It's not Austria, but it's a good place.
That's right.
Okay, Kelly, tell us, how did you land at Christ the King at LSU?
Yeah, so I am a full-time Focus missionary, and our first year, Focus places us wherever they see fit and where they need someone. And so my first year, I got asked to come here. I'm in my fourth year though, so I have loved it and have stayed for the last 4 years. So.
Praise God.
Well, we're glad that you're both joining us. And Scott, right off the bat, you spoke about the JP2 house, which is something very beautiful and unique at LSU. Would you tell us what is the JP2 house and what was it like for you serving there?
Sure. The JP2 house is basically as a Catholic men's fraternity, modeled after men living together in community with the rule of life, seeking Jesus Christ, seeking to grow in friendship, brotherhood, seeking to grow in virtue. CTK is unique in the JP2 house because we took aspects of the household system that's very prevalent in some Catholic